Okay, so here's how I went from the worst shape of my life with no goals, no direction, and completely lost to finishing an Ironman 1 week after turning 20 years old, building a physique I am genuinely proud of, and finally living with a sense of purpose that I didn't even know was possible at one time. And I did all of this without burning out and without waiting until I felt ready to actually start. So look, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I found some secret that nobody knows or that what I found is better than what everybody else is selling you. But what I found is much simpler and honestly probably harder than what you'll find out there. Most guys try to change their body before they try solving the real problem first. They keep downloading new programs, they switch to new diets, they start and try to find, the perfect solution to their problems. Now, a year later, they realize that nothing has actually changed. And it's not because the program failed. It's not because, it's not working for them. There's millions of programs out there that work and that you can make work, but it's because the person running it and the person behind it never actually changed. The men who actually transform and actually hit the goals that they set out to achieve, whether it's building a physique, whether it's starting a business, whether it's having a successful relationship, they didn't just find the perfect plan or a better plan. They had to become a different person first. They had to change their identity before they got their dream physique, before they started that successful business or found the perfect relationship. It all starts with your habits, with your mindset, with who you believe you are as a person, and you have to fix that before you get the dream outcome you are searching for. It doesn't work the other way around. That's just not how it works, and that's where a lot of guys get stuck and get frustrated because of it. So that is what this whole thing is built on, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did this. Okay, so let me tell you exactly who this is for. If you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you have this quiet frustration of knowing that you're capable of more than what you're looking at, this is definitely for you. If things in your life are moving, like you've got ambition, you've got some drive, you got some goals you would like to hit, but your body keeps getting left behind and you don't quite believe in yourself enough to fully go after these things, and that gap is really starting to bother you more than you might even let on, this is also definitely for you. Um, if you've started and stopped more times than you want to count, and you're beginning to wonder that maybe consistency is something people are just born with, and maybe you just weren't born with it, um, then this is definitely for you because I believe everybody has the ability to be consistent and everybody has the ability to hit the goals and ambitions that they have in life. It is in everybody and it is in you. You've just been attacking it the wrong way and you've probably been attacking the wrong things. So if that sounds like you, then this will definitely help you out. And if you want the physique, genuinely a body you are proud of, but more than that, you want to feel like you're actually becoming the man you're supposed to be and the man you want to be, then this is absolutely for you. So stick around. Now, let me be equally direct about who this is not for. If you want a plan you can follow halfway and still expect the full results, this ain't it. That version just doesn't exist. If your definition of discipline is locked in all week and completely a different person on the weekends, this won't work either. Not because I have some rule against having fun on the weekends, but it's because you've already tried that and you know exactly how that ends. And if you're not willing to honestly look at who you've been and who you are and make a real decision to change and own and take accountability for where you are at, just save yourself the time. This also is definitely not for you. And if you wanted to just drop a few pounds before summer and couldn't care less about what building a physique and building a whole new identity actually does for you, there are plenty of other great videos, great coaches to listen to for that. I'm genuinely not one of them, so you can go ahead and skip this video. I only help and work with men who are done settling for average and done settling for a weaker and lesser version of themselves physically, but most importantly mentally. So if that's you, then please keep watching and hopefully you can take something away from this. So the first things that most guys get wrong in their journey is motivation. They think that motivation is what drives results, that if you find the right thing to get fired up about, that consistency will just follow naturally. It won't. That is not how it works, because motivation is a feeling and feelings are temporary. And building a body and physique that you are proud of and building a real strong identity requires something that functions whether you feel like it or not. And most guys most guys live like this. They see something inspiring, they feel fired up, they start strong. Then life gets in the way, maybe 2, 3 weeks in, motivation disappears, and they quit and they feel bad about it, and the whole cycle just repeats and repeats and repeats. And every time that cycle breaks, they think something is wrong with them. They think that they are broken. But really, nothing is necessarily wrong with them. They're just trying to run a long-term process on a very short-term fuel source, on a very finite fuel source. And that just doesn't work in the long term. What actually works is deciding before you feel like it, showing up, especially on the days you don't want to, and building that standard, not just a streak and not just when motivation spikes, but something rooted in who you are deep down, not just how you feel when you wake up. So everything I'm about to show you is built on that foundation, and without it, none of anything else I'm about to say will hold up or will matter. And in case you don't know who I am or you just don't know my story, here is a quick rundown of who I am. So I played basketball and sports my whole life. Every season, I had structure, I had a goal, I had a reason to train. I always had a coach, a team, something to compete for and to strive for, and the discipline was just built into the environment I was in. So I didn't have to manufacture it, because the sport I loved and the sport I was playing, it did it for me. But what I've realized is that when I got to college, all of that disappeared overnight. I had no team around me to rely on. I had no season that provided structure, and I had no one holding me accountable to anything. It was all on me. So naturally, my workouts got inconsistent. Then they eventually stopped. My nutrition went completely out the window, and I had no athletic goals, no physical goals, no direction, and nothing I was truly building towards. So for the first time in my life, I felt like I was in the worst shape I'd ever been in. But here's the thing, the body wasn't even the part that bothered me the most. It was this feeling in knowing that I used to be somebody who competed and pushed and cared, and now I was just lost and coasting and complacent with my life. I didn't hit rock bottom. I wasn't necessarily failing. I was just comfortable and complacent, and I wasn't pushing for anything. It wasn't leading to a life that I wanted to live. And that gap between who I was and who I knew I could be and who I wanted to be in the future, that gap was there every single day, whether I wanted to acknowledge it or not. And eventually it just got too much to where I couldn't ignore it and I had to finally do something about it. So that leads me to where I am at today. I finished my first Ironman 1 week after turning 20. I compete in High Rocks. I'm currently training for my first ultra marathon, and I am the leanest and strongest I have ever been. Strongest both physically but also mentally. And now I get to run a coaching business that I feel like I found my purpose in, and maintaining every standard that I preach and every goal I've set for myself. I attack full on and with full belief. I feel motivated, disciplined, and honestly feel like I'm living with a sense of purpose that I'm so grateful for every single morning. And none of that came from finding the right program. It really came from deciding who I was going to be and refusing to compromise on that. And I get that the physique is awesome. The physique is rewarding, and it is a real thing, a real reason to and a real goal to strive for. But the proof of what it takes and actually achieving it is something much deeper. It's so the physique is not the point. It's who you become in the process, who you need to become in the process in order to get the physique. That is the real achievement, and that is where you feel the most fulfilled in the end. So, what actually changed things? Honestly, I just got sick of how it felt. It wasn't some dramatic way. I didn't hit rock bottom, and I don't have some crazy, comeback story, but there was just this point where I felt lost and I felt directionless, and I realized that the reason I felt lost and the reason I felt complacent and unmotivated every day was because I was making this choice, this daily choice, small choices, but every day to be less than what I was capable of. And somewhere in that, I came across this race called Ironman. Uh, so if you don't know, it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, then a full marathon to finish it. And honestly, it scared the shit out of me, which is exactly why I signed up for it. Because I knew I didn't need a new program. I knew what I needed to do to get back into shape. But I needed a goal that scared me a little bit. I need something ambitious to go after. So it needed to be big enough to demand something more from me than what I was giving currently. Something that I couldn't half commit to and still, cross the finish line. Because if you don't fully commit to something like an Ironman, you will not finish it. And not finishing that race honestly scared me. So that decision reorganized basically everything in my life. Suddenly I had a reason to wake up early, a reason to train when I didn't want to or felt like I had nothing left, and a reason to take my food seriously. The discipline didn't really come first. The purpose had to, the goal had to, that ambition and that goal that's just a little bit outside of your comfort zone, that had to be set first. And the discipline was built around it. So I crossed that finish line 1 week after turning 20 and haven't looked back since. And the discipline that built and the lifestyle it built has held up, and the standards I am still living to this day. So everything I'm about to walk you through right now is called the Core Standard Method. It is the framework that I built through years of actually living it, from competing in an Ironman, training for High Rocks, traveling the world, and testing basically every approach to training and nutrition that I could get my hands on. So everything I've tried until I finally cracked the code on how to build a very disciplined, capable man with a physique that matches it. And now I'm going to break down the whole thing for you right here. And basically, it's broken up into 4 steps in this specific order because the order really does matter. So, first, build the identity. Second, train with intention. Third, feel the mission. And fourth, protect what you're building. So, let's go through each step. Step one is the one everybody wants to skip, and it is the reason that they fall off and they can't stay consistent. They want the training program, they want the meal plan, they want the thing that they can start doing tomorrow and that will just fix the problem. But that's exactly why they're stuck. That is exactly why they can't follow through on anything and they can't hit their goals because they keep trying to build on a foundation that just isn't there. Can't build a physique that lasts on top of an identity that just hasn't earned it yet. The work has to start on building a strong foundation. That happens before the gym, before the diet. It has to happen first. So, what does this actually look like in practice? First of all, morning is most important. We don't hit the snooze button. You're up with or before sunrise every single day. Every morning you hit the snooze button, you're rehearsing a bad habit. The habit of choosing the easy path over the hard path. You're choosing comfort over a previous commitment that you already made. And that habit doesn't just stay in the bedroom or it doesn't just stay, when you wake up. It shows up everywhere. It builds, it builds, it builds until you're finding that you're choosing the easy way out and in everything in life. Second thing we do is plan your workout the night before and treat it as you decided. Don't evaluate whether to train in the morning when you're tired and the bed is comfortable and warm. That decision got made the night before when you were thinking clearly. The morning is just where you execute on that decision. We keep the phone away first thing in the morning. This is so critical. Whatever you feed your mind first thing is what shapes your entire day, and we don't want to hand that to some device that you honestly don't have much control over. So make sure to, at least for an hour or two, first hour or two of the day, to put your phone away and do not look at it. Next is do something daily that builds your mind, whether it's reading, journaling, writing, learning something new. It doesn't really matter what it is. What matters is that you are deliberately investing in how you think and not just how you look, because how you think is just as, if not more important. You need to get ruthless about saying no. This is one of the harder ones for sure for a lot of guys. But your time and your mental energy are the most finite resources that you have. And most men give both away constantly without even thinking about it and without even realizing it. You need to protect these things like your life depends on it, because in a lot of ways it truly does. If you don't have time and you don't have mental energy, what are you left with? Not much at all. None of this is a hack. None of these things are quick fixes. It's not a morning routine tip. It's a daily practice of just keeping these small promises to yourself. And when you do so, that self-trust, it slowly builds over time. It compounds over time. And the only way this can happen is through those small repeated actions. And this is where the foundation that everything else, all the workouts, all the nutrition, everything else to build that physique is built on. So it all starts here. Okay, so step 2 is to train with intention. And I want to be completely honest about how much I got wrong before landing on what actually worked. So I went through the full bodybuilder phase first, 6 days a week, push-pull legs, 2 hours in the gym, copying exactly what these big fitness accounts were doing. Now, I saw some progress, but nothing that matched the time I was actually putting in with no real foundation that I built on with no real change in identity, it just killed me entirely, and I couldn't stick with it. So then I swung hard the other way. I dropped most of the lifting. I ran a massive volume every week, like 15 plus hours of cardio a week at one point during Ironman prep. Actually, during Ironman prep, it was probably closer to 20 plus hours. Lost some muscle, felt flat, and just looked worse. I also tried just pure strength without really much cardio at all. I got stronger, but I felt slow. I felt stiff. My conditioning was shit, and I just didn't feel good with that either. So none of the extremes held up, and I spent years on both ends of that spectrum before I actually understood why. And the answer to why was in the middle. It was simpler than I wanted it to be after years of just overcomplicating it. This is what I found has worked the best for me so far. So 4 to 5 gym sessions per week. You train with real intensity and a clear purpose each time. You're not just showing up and going through the motions. It has to be intense, and it has to be with purpose. 2 to 3 runs per week. Running obviously builds a different type of fitness than lifting does, and it's a different kind of mental toughness, which you just cannot get in the gym. And I feel that it transfers to life in so many different areas. It keeps you athletic, it keeps you lean without destroying your recovery. Then also I include 1 high rock session or an equivalent conditioning session per week. Something more performance based, something that actually asks a lot from you from like a functional standpoint, not just about, looking good in the mirror and moving weights. Then active recovery between sessions. So the biggest things we can do are focus on the structure of our programming, our nutrition, and our sleep. Those are the biggest things that will move the needle. And that is basically it. That structure keeps you lean year around. It keeps you performing well. It keeps you consistent without burning out or hating the whole process. The third part is nutrition, and this is where I have spent the most time getting it completely wrong. Before I landed on something that actually has held up in my life and that I can actually stick to. I have tried basically everything: low carb, high carb, tracking every gram of food I ate, cutting out sugar entirely, super high protein phases, super low protein phases. If you can name it, I have probably tried it. None of the extremes lasted, and every rigid protocol eventually ran into some real life complication, and it just collapsed. They create cravings, and cravings turn into binges, and binges turn into guilt. Then it's just this whole cycle that causes you to, start and stop. And I needed something that worked when I was eating out, when I was on a 14-hour flight, when I was, traveling, when the conditions just weren't perfect. And, if your approach only works in perfect conditions, then it's not really an approach at all, and it won't work long term. So here's what I actually do, and this is what actually works long term. I cook 80 to 90% of meals at home. It's not because restaurants are like the enemy. I still eat out, but because when you can control what goes in your food, you have a lot more control over the outcome. And that one habit alone does a lot more for body composition than any diet you can ever try. Build those meals around whole single ingredient foods, not ultra processed, high caloric types of foods with super long ingredient lists. We strive for medium protein, high fiber, and carbs around your workouts. Nothing extreme in either end. No low carb, no high carb, no keto, none of that stuff. Nothing that requires super strict tracking or calculating. And I still eat out. I still enjoy meals with with the people I care about, with my friends and family. I go to dinner, I order good food, and I don't make it some like moral crisis. You're not eating to be perfect. You're eating to, support your lifestyle. You're eating to enjoy life. And those things are very different. And when I committed to all of this, not bouncing between different diets and not treating, every week with like some new experiment, I locked everything in consistently. That is when I found some real progress and a real momentum. And it wasn't because of some breakthrough system or some new protocol or new diet. It was because I just simplified it enough that I was able to maintain it, and it is flexible enough to actually fit in my life. Step 4 is protect what you're building and what you have already built. So, like I was mentioning before, people go a little bit too in depth into recovery, but it is still super important. So, the best ability is availability. And if you can't show up and train consistently over months and years, nothing else is going to really matter. The best workouts, the best nutrition in the world means nothing if you keep getting derailed by injury or burnout or illness. I've been hurt, couldn't train properly for an extended period of time, and what that period really showed me was just how much of my daily confidence, how much of my mental clarity and that sense of direction was tied to being able to train and being able to push myself physically. And when that got taken away, I realized that protecting that ability to train consistently is as important as the training itself. So what does proper recovery actually look like? Top of the list will always be sleep. Sleep is the foundation. You need to be striving for 7 to 9 hours, and the quality really matters more than the quantity. So focus on your sleep environment, your evening habits, and what you do the hour before bed. It all feeds into how recovered you actually feel and are the next morning. Now, nothing in your recovery matters if your programming is just completely wrong. Smart programming prevents most injuries before they can ever happen. Things like overuse, too much volume, too fast, not enough recovery built in, like that is where 99% of injuries come from. You don't need to worry about your saunas or ice baths or stretching or foam rolling, because you just won't have these problems if you program properly. What you eat directly affects how fast you bounce back between sessions, and you can't look at nutrition and training as separate things. They go together. They are one and one. If you look at them as separate things, that is where a lot of people go wrong. Don't train through illness just to prove that you're tough. It's not tough. It never pays off, and almost always sets you back further than where you were. And if you're dealing with an injury, work around it intelligently, or just rest and actually deal with it properly. Don't try to grind through something that really won't heal unless you give it time. That being said, you won't always feel great. You won't always feel perfect and ready to train. But that's not necessarily a sign that you need rest. You need to learn to tell the difference between your body genuinely needing recovery and rest, and your mind just looking for a reason to skip and find the easy way out. You need to respect that first one and push through the second, and push through those uncomfortable moments. I used to spend hours in the gym and I had nothing to show with it. I was just going through the motions with no direction. I had no purpose, and I set no real standard for myself. I knew that every single day that I was capable of more than what I was doing. What I did was I stopped chasing the next program, and I started building the proper foundation. I built a discipline that doesn't need motivation to function. I built the body that actually reflects the work I was putting in. And I built a life where fitness sharpens everything instead of completely consuming it. And I was able to finish an Ironman. I'm able to compete in High Rocks. I'm able to travel the world and maintain every standard I have set for myself and coach men through the same process every single day and find my purpose while doing so. That is what I call the core standard method. That's what it actually produces. It's not just a physique, it is a whole new standard, a whole new identity that you set for yourself. And it's not one that just expires when the program ends. It's something that lasts a lifetime. It's something you can rely on and that improves every area of your life. Okay, so now that you've seen exactly how this works, here's what I want you to do. If you watch this whole video and you recognize yourself in it in some way, if you felt that gap between where you are and where you know you should be, then this next part is probably for you. There is a link below this video in the description. If you go click on it, fill out the short application. It only takes a few minutes and you can book a free call with me directly. And on that call, we can get very clear on exactly where you are, where you want to be, and whether the core standard method is the right fit to get you there. There's no pressure. I'm not trying to hard sell you anything on this call. It's just an honest conversation about what's actually standing between where you are and the version of yourself that you want to get to and that you know already exists. I keep my numbers super small on purpose. I'm not trying to take on everybody. I want the men who sat through this entire video and felt something when they watched it and are actually ready to stop treating the decision like something they can think about and decide on later. I want those men. I want to work with those men. So if that sounds like you, then the link is below. Go ahead and fill out the application, book the call, and let's build a standard that you are proud of, and let's completely reshape your identity and build a physique that you can look in the mirror and absolutely love. Let's get it.